Hello again, ladies and gents, and welcome back to the AJ Roberts Show. Got a special treat for you today. We have none other than the legendary Right Said Fred. Obviously, we've got Fred and Richard Fairbrass, who brought out the iconic tune, I'm Too Sexy, in 1991, which, upon research, hit UK #1, US #1, Japanese #1, and was the first to do so in America from a British band since the Beatles, which, guys, that's a pretty impressive feat. Yes, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, AJ.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks, AJ. Brilliant.
Yeah, so let's just go, obviously, start off with your musical background. Obviously, you started the band considerable time ago now, but like, obviously, the name of the title, Right Said Fred, obviously consists of one of you. Where did the actual name come from? What was the idea behind it?
What happened was we were doing loads of shows in London as a sort of duo, and quite often we'd change the name of the band, and we were in need of a new name. And a friend of mine called Katie heard Bernard Cribbin's song Right Said Fred on the radio, and we all lived quite close proximity to each other. And she came round, and obviously this all pre-mobile phone, she came round and banged on the door, and she said, "You should call your band Right Said Fred." So we were running out of time, because back in those days you had to get your copy into Time Out to advertise your gigs.
Exactly.
So we were running late. So we just said, "Oh, that'd be fine, that'd do." So that's what we did. So that was 1989, I think, maybe late 88. I can't remember. And so that's where that came from. I mean, we've been on the road. Our first real tour was 78 with a band called Suicide, who are a New York electronic duo, who are now being cited as, you know, the godfathers sort of electronica.
Well, sort of like the Pet Shop Boys, but on
weird,
just a weird version of the Pet Shop.
Much weirder.
Yeah.
And they've now become quite iconic. And on that tour, we did shows with Joy Division and a bunch of sort of different, slightly post-punk bands like the Addicts, and I think maybe the Adverts we did a gig with, and a whole bunch of all around the UK. Then, rattling on too much, we just went on and off the road through the 80s, in and out of record deals. I did some brief shows with Bob Dylan and playing guitar. Richard did a bunch of promo work and playing bass with David Bowie. We both did some stuff with Mick Jagger. And all this time we were in and out of deals, doing shows, waiting tables, driving minicabs. We lived in New York in 87, did a deal there, that went wrong, came back in late 87, started Right Said Fred in 88, roughly.
Wow.
What was the question? Now, sorry, I just thought I'd rattle it off. It's, you know. Oh, I don't know.
So I mean, when you brought your song out, the first song, I'm Too Sexy, did you ever imagine it would get to #1 and you know, have the impact it did?
No, we had no money, and we had no expectations. We had been, as Fred says, we've been in and out of record deals for years, and to be honest with you, all we wanted to do at the time was just hear it on the radio. That was it. Yeah. We had no ambitions for it beyond that. The only time it began to dawn on me that the track was interesting was when Phil Spalding put the live bass on it. Up until that point, it was a synth bass, but the live bass really gave it a kick.
It did, yeah.
And it was just surprising, actually, because we were working with Rob Manzoli, and he had never done a track like this before, and nor had we. So for all of us, it was completely
virgin territory.
And when I look back, I mean, people are sort of surprised that we sort of speak out now, but we always have. And in a way, Sexy, because it didn't sound like anybody else, is a testament to the fact that we just do what we think is right and what we feel is right, you know. And if we had been, you know, I remember we had a writing session very, very quickly with a guy some years ago, and the first thing he said when we walked to the studio is, "Right, let's see what's in the top 10 in Germany."
Why?
Well, no, you don't do that, because by the time you check that out, it's all out of date. You do what you want to do. You do what you want to do. You don't follow other people.
No, exactly. Yeah. So it's quite fitting, actually, that you know, now we're looking so far ahead since you brought that song out, and the name of your group, like everything you guys are saying now is actually right. You know, and it's it's quite ironic, but good. But I mean, since then, you've you've been out and about, obviously doing stuff in the music industry, but then obviously 2 years ago, you guys suffered the same as, you know, majority of people around the world, in the Western world especially, being here in the UK and went through like lockdowns and all these kind of procedures and stuff like that. And, very early on, you guys have been quite outspoken about what your thoughts are on like the handling of lockdowns, the introductions of medical interventions, the level of coercion and propaganda and stuff like that we've seen from, mainstream media. And I mean, having been in the media a lot over a few decades now, like, we always know that they're not the most truthful sources that you can get. It doesn't matter what industry that may be, whether it's politics or music. Like, what was your first initial thoughts on the way things were being handled and pushed out in the media when this first started? Because I know for me, as soon as I started seeing people body popping on the floor in China and they were trying to say it was coronavirus, that straight away I was like, something's not right here, because it's got the flu-like disease. You ain't getting out of bed, putting a suit on, walking down the street with a briefcase.
And then falling over.
Yeah. When it very first happened, the first lockdown, which was March 23rd, was it? 20,
yeah.
Something like that, So initially, I mean, I've been down the rabbit hole for quite a long time, about 20 years. So my antennas were up, but I thought, okay, maybe there's something here. So I was staying at Richard's. He lives close to, not far from Heathrow, and there are planes going in and out, in and out, in and out. And we thought, well, this is a bit of a crap lockdown. What's going on here? So we drove up to Heathrow. Let's go to arrivals.
Have a look.
Let's go and see what's going on. And it was just Beijing, Mumbai, all this, and Seoul, and all this stuff. We're going, well, this is just bollocks, isn't it? This is just nonsense. Because if you actually went to a real lockdown, hermetically sealed the country, all travel would be stopped, everything. And a friend of ours works for a foreign government, and she travels on private jets a lot. She told us we're business as usual. We're in and out all the time. What's going on? So I just thought, no, this is one law for them and one law for us, and we didn't believe it from that point onwards, which was sort of late March, early April.
Well, I think they just, I don't know whether this is true. I've just seen a thing about the Oscars. LAX in LA, obviously, you have to have a vaccine certificate for whatever it is, passport to get through. But this is not necessary if you're going to the Oscars. All I think, and I mean, do we seriously think that Jeff Bezos is sticking a cotton bud up his nose?
Of course he's not.
He's not. Yeah. This is what we're looking at. I think is one rule for the proles and all the little people down there, and one rule for all the elites and the other people. Blair doesn't.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
None of these people do it. Yeah. So let's not. If it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it probably is a duck. Yeah. For me, the awakening was, if that's the right word, was the Build Back Better mantra. The minute I heard all these people saying that in a kind of synchronized, chant, and then I saw Johnson saying, "Let's build back better" in a feminine kind of way. I just thought, first of all,
what is that? First
of all, this stinks. The whole thing stinks. And secondly, he's clearly insane.
Yeah.
That's self-evident to me. So I kind of, that's when for me the scales began. Okay. Yeah, so it was definitely the whole Build Back Better thing, and also the Matt Hancock crying on the TV, and I mean when he did that whole vaccine thing. And the minute he did that, I just thought, they're going to weaponize this. This vaccine is going to be weaponized. There's absolutely no doubt they're going to weaponize it and use it as a kind of lever. And that is precisely what's happened. Although, give them credit, they didn't just use one vaccine to lever people into getting it. They used 3. And there's one guy in Russia who's had 5.
Yeah. Also,
I mean, it's extraordinary.
Also, there's a lot of the TV stuff, particularly the morning TV. We've done, I don't know how much morning TV you've done. We've done buckets of it, and the message, how they act off camera is not how they act on camera. So they're doing this 6 feet apart, and Schofield and Willoughby are hugging through a piece of plastic sheeting, and when they're all sitting in the dressing in the makeup room and they first arrive, they give each other a hug. They're sitting, all right, babes, how's it going? And you have your coffee and all that sort of stuff. And then suddenly, and we're meant to believe that they've been acting, what their on-screen persona is how they're acting off-screen, and you just know it's bollocks.
This is the party thing, the Christmas party thing,
the party gate.
Yeah, and it is extraordinary. What I think's amazed me more than anything in the last 2 years is the degree to which the government has not encouraged people to think for themselves.
Yeah, of course.
The government has not encouraged people to be analytical, to be rational, and to be pragmatic. That's not what they've done. The government has instilled through the behavioural insight team and all this nudge stuff, they've encouraged people to be slavish and compliant and gullible. And I think a leader's job and a government's job is to make people feel brave and to make people feel confident in themselves, confident of their country, confident in themselves, that they are able as free human beings to make their own decisions about their own lives. But that's not what we get from this government. We get fear porn all the time. Yeah. And I think it's inexcusable. And the same, I'm sorry to say, is from the opposition. The opposition. If there's an opposition, there's an opposition.
Yes, that's free.
If Starmer was a footballer, he'd be facing the wrong direction throughout the match.
Yeah, he would.
He just is. He's absolutely. There's an open goal there for the Labour Party, right there, in terms of health and freedom of speech and liberty and freedom of all that stuff, all that really important stuff. And the Labour Party, what? In fact, you get more of this stuff from the Tory backbenchers than you ever do from the Labour side. You get people like David Davis or whoever,
Steve Baker,
Steve Baker, and Lord Sumption, and people who's not, I don't think is a Labour peer. So it's the Tory side in a way, which is more sort of energised by the idea of freedom of conscience and that kind of thing. But Labour has just dropped the ball. I fully don't understand why. I don't understand.
But I mean, you said it like previously before, like how the presenters and that act on TV. We know it's just, it clearly is a massive act with them as well.
Yes.
Whether you're opposition or not, because at the end of the day, if you're opposition, but somebody's got your balls and they're telling you what to do or else, you're doing it, aren't you? And that's clearly what's happening, because
it is completely.
We can clearly see that there's a shadow government running this country that is not the people you see on TV at all. They're just clear and obvious puppets. And it's been the case all the way through. I think just the last probably three to 4 months especially has really ironed that out to the general population with how they've dealt with things, and just the way they just suddenly just scaled back on everything just like that. If it was a deadly plague and people still running around saying we're in the middle of a pandemic, like how they've been hypnotized like that, if it was the case, you wouldn't scale back on these measures with a click of a fingers, would you? It's just plainly obvious.
And also we've said if it was as serious as they tried to make it appear, all masks would have been standardized, they would have all been free, and there would have been dedicated disposal bins for those masks. Surgically secure disposable thing. You've seen them on the street. I mean, I saw one guy where I live, he dropped his mask on the street and then put it back on. There's another woman.
That surprised me.
Another woman, I think it was in America. She was walking a dog. Walking a dog with a mask on. Well, she had a mask on, the dog didn't. The dog did its business on the pavement. She picked up the dog's business with her mask, put it in a bin, and then retaining the mask, and then put it back on. I mean, I just, there was I saw a lady.
It's like that saying, isn't it? If it smells like shit, it tastes like shit, it probably is shit.
Exactly. I just want people, all it is I just want people to think of themselves. That's all it is. Stop looking to the government to lead your life. Lead your own life. And think for yourself. Have the courage to use your own intellect. That's all.
Well, that's what's been the case all the way along since, obviously the Nudge Group were employed, which studied the population for 5-6 years, way before this even started, to obviously build up massive data bank on how we operate, how we think, how we live. I mean, you guys have seen it throughout decades, haven't you? How and I have as well. Everything from the indoctrination at school level all the way through to you're almost set up to fail, aren't you, with the school? They put this pressure on you to say it's be all and end all to get A's to C's and maths and English, blah, blah, blah. Because I'm using trigonometry right now in this podcast, right? And I get their basic understanding of it all, but there's no life skills ever taught. You're not taught how to, do mortgages, this, that, and the other, the stuff that's actually quite important that you want to do when you're older. So you're almost set up to fail all the time. So then because of that, you have that lack of self-belief. So you automatically, look for the responsibility or the actual help from the governments or from big tech or big pharma or putting us into this perpetual cycle of doom, basically, which is what majority of the population find themselves in. You can very much distract yourself from that. But it's whether you want to, because we know by now there's a lot of people that like being governed, right? But again, it's just that they've done it on purpose. They've taken away that element of being responsible for your own health, your own autonomy, your own, the way you process things, the need to do any of that. And, we all know like hundreds of people who have been vaccinated have basically just said, well, my doctor recommended it because they got the, white coat syndrome, right?
Yes.
They got a white coat, so they must be telling the truth and know all their shit. However, like if they did then have an adverse reaction, it's their doctor's fault because the doctor recommended it. And that's nationwide, worldwide, that kind of mentality.
It's also present. I mean, somebody today was making the point that within government, the deferral of elected representatives to independent, independent commercial bodies, whether it's Group 4 to run a prison or whatever it happens to be, that level of disconnect between the people you elect and the people who actually run things mean that the people you elect are not actually responsible for anything.
Nothing at all.
They can always say, that's not our fault. Talk to the guys who run Group 4.
Also, I mean, one thing I always thought, we're told to be, there's a couple of things. When we were kids, it was the not highway code, what was it?
Green Cross Code.
Green Cross Code.
Yeah.
Look left.
The big man in green.
Yeah, you look left, you look right, you look left, and then you can, if it's all safe, you cross the road. But always apply caution. With this trial drug, we're not meant to apply caution at all. Although we are also at the same time told we're responsible for our mortgage. We're responsible not to break the law. We're responsible to drive cars. We're responsible to look after our families, etc., etc. But we're not responsible enough to make our own decisions suddenly about this trial drug. The whole thing is completely out about, and it just, we said, like Judge Judy used to say, if it doesn't make sense, it's because it's senseless. And that's exactly what this is. None of it makes sense.
Well, I saw it was, I think it was on his breakfast show. There was one of the presenters on there, or a guest, I can't remember. And she said she was vaccine hesitant. And that's all she said.
Oh, she was
hesitant. That's all. And they pilloried her for that.
Is that loose women?
I think it might have been loose women. It was a black lady, I can't remember. But she said, and she was right to be hesitant, I think. She was right to think for herself, absolutely. But she was, they launched into her. And you see the same kind of attitude. I mean, you have the most awful articles by people like Andrew Neil. Now's the time to punish the unvaxxed. These people were they were always there. That's what we have to realize. They were always there. In Ontario, a court has just decided that the money that's been sent in to support the truckers through
GoFundMe.
It can be seized. They get free. Now, what's interesting, like somebody quite rightly said, if all these trucks were electric, there would be no demonstration. You have to have cash, you have to have independence, and you have to write everything down on a pen and paper with a pen and paper.
Exactly.
If you want to be safe, you can't use this. You can't.
Well, GoFundMe just proved just like how dangerous a cashless society would be, because you've got these organizations who've just got control of these millions of dollars and just say, no, we don't agree. If we think you've like broken these terms and conditions, so we're just going to like put the money out to wherever we want. And again, it would be exactly the same with the World Bank and a world digital currency. And people don't realize, and small businesses don't realize that, who are conforming to this, not accepting cash payments and stuff. They're buying straight into it.
Yeah, they are absolutely completely.
Cash is the, people don't. I mean, my brother's daughter is a lot young, obviously a lot younger. She's 24 or whatever she is. And for a lot of people, the convenience far outweighs any problems that might arise through conflict of interest. So convenience is the most important thing. If it means they know where I am, if it means they know what I'm spending, if it means that they can control this, it doesn't matter, because I can just put my phone on the pay thing and it's all done. Terribly, I don't have to reach in my pockets for cash and all that headache, and they don't, and it's the interconnectivity that people don't quite grasp. It's the same with the vaccine passport. People say, well, I had to have a jab when I went to India. Well, yes, you did, but it's not shared. That information is not shared with your bank. No. It's not shared with your employer. It's not shared. That's the point. And we have to get it into our heads. This interconnectivity is the issue, which is why retention of cash is essential, which is why when Rishi Sunak goes off on one about digital currency, he is the enemy of the people. There's no doubt about it, and he's the enemy of anonymity. The enema, and he's an enema. Yes, exactly. So these are fundamental issues, and we get a little bit distracted, I think, by the science, if you like. There's HIV, and it's an mRNA, and it's this. To me, these things are slightly tangential. Key thing, the absolute key thing is are we capable of living our lives according to our own lights, our own predispositions, or do we continually refer to the state?
Yeah.
My is, do not refer to the state. Have the courage of your own convictions and believe in yourself.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, no, I totally get it, and it's true. So many more people going down that route now, which is great because again, all we've seen for many years now is very poor leadership at the top, and it does slide downhill, and all it does, it just cascades down to your subordinates and stuff like that, who then follow that kind of that kind of act on to their subordinates and so on. This is the very same for what was in the military, right? 15 years, you see people who are very didactic approach, right? So that very I say you do type thing, never listen to anybody's ideas, doesn't teach anybody anything, and it doesn't get the job done efficiently. Right. It's the same with obviously the situation with Boris now. I remember interviewing Sir Graham Brady, and he said, outright, he's like, he doesn't listen to anything we say, and this is like the head of the 1922 committee. So it just goes to show where we're at. But I think the ability to think for oneself gives you so much more independence and individual power, standing within your own power yourself anyway. So when you know that and you feel it and you do it often, you can feel what the difference is like and how much more powerful and beneficial it is to stand within your own power, your own truths, being self-sufficient, actually taking responsibility for your own health, which is what so many people aren't doing. It's easy to just sit back, man. And you're right, like these things just make everything so easy for everybody because there's an app for everything. There's a smart this, a smart that. Alexa, put my slippers on. It's just life's been made far too easy for everybody, and all based off external validation. So all these kids are like, oh yeah, I've got 50 likes on this picture of me in shorts. And again, that's where they again, this whole behavioral science thing, right? They know all this, don't they? So it's almost like preying on their vulnerabilities, isn't it? But for you guys, like, you would have seen firsthand the effects that this has had, like, on the music industry, not just within lockdowns and stuff, and the ability to be able to not fill venues or even attend venues, how to sort of bounce on and offline and do more stuff like that. But I mean, that's obviously affected everybody in the music industry. But in terms of your experiences with artists and stuff, like, is there a large number of artists that like know what's going on and like fed up and just want to get through this, but then because you guys clearly don't hide behind your brand, you're very outspoken about everything.
I think all artists know, but they are conflicted because of their contracts. Yeah. And there's we haven't signed a major. Well, we've never signed a major record deal. We've always been independent, but occasionally we've done separate deals. And in those deals, and I'm not speaking for other artists. I'm speaking for us now. There's a clause which is best endeavours. Best endeavours clause is basically you don't do anything that could jeopardise the brand, the product, the label, blah blah blah. Yeah. So maybe a lot of these, the usual people we're used to hearing speak out, like Liam Gallagher, as an example, or Stormzy, they're very silent. So my guess is that they'd much rather keep silent, bank some money, and keep the record company happy than jeopardise their brands, their income, and stuff like that. So, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, it's a very weird situation that we're in because the whole thing's upside down. Now in our particular case, I thought we were doing what we were not expected to do, but it didn't seem to me to be odd, which is to question everything, which is just to say, actually, this doesn't feel quite right. And then Piers Morgan got his knickers in a bunch and threw everything out the pram. And then I suddenly thought, well, this is very odd, because back in the day, in the 60s and 70s, it was a pop artists and artists in general job to kick up the dust. Yeah. Whether it was Joan Baez or whether it was Bob Dylan or whoever it was, they were all on the steps of the White House shouting about Vietnam or whatever it was, So this is it's almost round the wrong way. Rather like these talent shows on TV where the artist chases the audience. That's not the way round that it is. What happened in art is the artist creates the audience and the audience follow the art. That's what it is. Now, you wouldn't have Francis Bacon. If there was an art show on television, you wouldn't have Francis Bacon winning it with his triptych. People would be looking for, I don't know, seagulls flying, and they'd be looking for pretty stuff and yachts and things. So you absolutely, the artist's job is to take you on a journey. That's the artist's job, not to follow what the audience wants. And I remember being at a party many years ago. I was a huge Beatles fan. All I did was listen to Sgt. Pepper's. Went to this party, and they were playing Atom Heart Mother by Pink Floyd, right? And I remember thinking, well, this is a right load of rubbish. Where's the hook? I can't. Every song is 20 minutes long. There's no hook. There's no bloody chorus. I can't. And blah blah. Many years later, I realised that they were challenging me. That's what they were doing. They were way ahead of me. And that's the job of an artist. And that's why the Brits this year had some of the lowest figures ever, because I think the Brits or pop music has lost a lot of its edge and credibility. And I think people are bored with that kind of rather sanitized music. I think where's Alex Harvey now? Where is Madness? I mean, when Madness came out, it was like, what the hell are they doing? It's completely bizarre, and that I really, really love that. I didn't like it all. I didn't like the Sex Pistols, but God bless them for doing it.
Certain bands you think to speak out. I mean, I haven't heard a peep out the Sleaford Mods.
No,
and there's a few bands you'd expect would be a bit mouthy about this, one way or another. And it's not a word. So if they agree with the government narrative, that's up to them. But they haven't even said that, as far as I'm aware.
Can you imagine the Sleaford Mods?
Well, I don't
agreeing with the government narrative.
I don't know.
So you guys not on the verge of threatening Spotify to take your music down to get rid of Joe Rogan yet? Then
we know the Spotify royalties are dreadful, but I don't mind Spotify. First of all, I use it to find bands I've never heard of because I just follow trails. And we've got a little radio show we do, and we use it to discover new bands for that as well. And then if we like something, we buy it. So I sort of use it like I used to use radio. We just go through lots of stuff. Oh, they're like that. Oh, I like that. And then I go and buy it off iTunes or wherever. And so that's how we use it. And I think, I think the Spotify business model is fucked, but it provides a service, and people make the mistake of comparing it to radio. It's not meant to be the same as radio. It's a different format completely. But I'm not anti-Spotify. Actually, I'm anti the royalties they pay. They need to.
That could be improved.
That could be improved just a tad.
Well, I've noticed Harry and Meghan have weighed in on it, haven't they? And haven't they? And apparently they've said about his thing should be taken down, but they've got some big contract with Spotify, yet they've only done one episode of some podcast. So
listens to that?
I mean, come on, I've got more episodes on Spotify than them. You know what I mean?
Bloody hell. Who would listen to Harry and what's her name, Meghan?
Yeah.
Good Lord.
I'm surprised they haven't put a camera up in the bedroom.
Yeah.
Do you know that
fans only, or only fans?
Only fans, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Jeez,
the Spotify. I agree with Fred. I mean, Mick Jagger made the point. He said there's never been a better time to make music, which is that you can do it cheaply and you can get it out there.
Yeah.
But there's never been a more difficult time to earn money from it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that is true. He's absolutely.
But is it the same as most industries though, where there's just so many people involved in anything that everyone's got to have a piece of the pie? You know what I mean?
Yes,
it's just there's no simple journey anymore, just to get the jobs done with the minimal amount of people.
No.
That obviously all then need a cut. So by the time you actually get the royalties and for actually doing the performance, you're like, oh yeah, cheers.
Yes, exactly.
Sort of throat from screaming my head off all night.
Yeah,
and, So it's the same in a lot of industries though, isn't it? Like even in sport and stuff like that now, it's like, a football player can't even move clubs about agent getting 20% and everything else and that goes in it. It's nuts, isn't it?
No, it is. Also, the back in, it's almost kind of like Keith Richards back in the old days, but there was a kind of like a route that you followed. You made a record, and then you tried to get a deal. Then you got it then you got it played, and radio picked it up. And then you made, if it looked like it was getting some traction, then you made a video, and then you went out and made an album. Then you toured the album. The whole thing had a kind of there was a pattern to it. Now it's completely. We're still releasing stuff, and we do it all online. We've got a single coming out in sort of April time, but it's completely different. The way you do it now is entirely different. I remember back in the day with midweeks. you'd have your midweek, and oh my God, our midweek's gone down. What are we going to do? So, I mean, like everything, there are upsides and downsides. It's I wouldn't necessarily want to go back to the old days. When we started, we had to make, I don't know, 40 or 50 sets for all the record companies and the independents and stuff. And now I think you probably get away with 2. So there are things that are better and things that are worse. It's like everything, although with regards to this government and COVID, it's only worse.
Yes. Yeah, of course.
There is no upside to this government and the COVID thing.
Well, but you guys have done such an amazing amount of research, like so many other people, and we first met at the Question Everything Summit, which was which was fantastic. There's some really great speakers there and stuff like that. Loads of powerful messages, factual science and stuff like that.
It was a good day, wasn't it? It was interesting.
It was,
yeah. And I mean, like, based on everything, like, we know now, like, where would you guys like to see things go in the next, like, 6 months? Because obviously, if the government are retracting everything by the end of this month, which is good news for people, because I think the populations as a general, like, tend to only need a few weeks, don't they, to kind of forget about things. And I think the last 2 years is hard to forget about, but I mean, in terms of getting back to some kind of routine and stuff like that, which people thrive off, it may be a big benefit for us as it starts to get into spring and stuff. But overall, like, what would you guys like to see in the next 6 months take place?
I'd like to see the court cases. The court's full of some of these people.
Yeah, same, yeah.
The courts in The Hague.
Some success from Rainer Fulmich would be nice.
Yeah.
The WF being disbanded would be nice. I don't think any of these things are going to happen.
I'd like to see Klaus Schwab on a diet.
Yeah, Klaus Schwab on a diet. I personally think, this is not the calm before the storm, but already there's some messaging from what Savage Avid was saying. There's a new sub-variant, and this one could be bleak. And they're using some pretty horrible words. I think you're right. I think they're going to use spring for a bit of feel-good factor stuff. And I just think it will be back in sort of, it'll be deja vu come towards the end of the year. I don't think going back to lockdowns, but they're going to use the technology. They're going to use what they've already put into place just to do a bit more of the same.
We have to remember that what happens in this country is not happening in other countries.
Yeah, of course.
Canada is very, very particular and special.
Yeah.
And that shows you what the edge of this is, which is government control of even demonstrations.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Of course, they will use any power that they've got to crush it. That's the truth. And it's the same in New Zealand.
Yeah.
Australia is staggering to me with the image that Australia always had of big burly blokes surfing and shearing sheep and what's happened in Australia. I mean, in the Northwest Territories, in some areas, I think if you're unvaccinated, when you go to a supermarket to buy food, you have to go with a marshal to make sure you're not buying anything that's not essential.
Yeah, I know, and it's the same in Canada, isn't it? In New Brunswick, where I've got so many family members, and that, like, if you're unvaccinated, you've got to be escorted around the shop, which doesn't make sense. In itself, you know what I mean? As bizarre as it sounds. And that's been the good thing for me with this, my particular show, like being able to showcase what's going on in Canada and New Zealand and Australia, and having so many people on from those countries who are, literally the boots on the ground and stuff.
Yes.
Get a real insight of it, and the audience too as well. And it's been good, and I've been getting so many great messages from people in Australia, New Zealand, and Canada. Of thanks, because they feel like literally isolated within their own countries, you know what I mean? As if like no one's coming to help. And obviously the British media hasn't shown a single thing about any of what's happening in these countries. So I'm a firm believer that, like, mainstream media is dead. It's all going to be about alternative media from now on. It's so easy to do. I mean, even doing this podcast is really straightforward.
Yes.
But it gets like proper information out there to people that they need, and they can make informed decisions moving forward, or at least give them heads up on things.
Yes, exactly.
Which is where people like us have done the extensive research. We've always been that little one step ahead, haven't we? Which has been useful. Yeah. But it could be it can be a pain at the same time.
Yes, it can, because people also, I think, through friends we've got who've been vaxxed, there's now. It's weird. They're in this weird place, which is it's a mixture of embarrassment and denial.
Yeah.
They refuse to admit they've believed the government and what they were told to do, and they're embarrassed that they did it as well.
Yeah.
So you've got this anger, like we will.
Yeah,
Mm.
it's the old Mark Twain quote. It's easier to fool people than persuade them they've been fooled.
Yes. Yeah.
That's what it is. And but I think what you're going back to what you were saying earlier. What we're going to see, I think, is clusters of rebellion. Some countries will pull out of it fairly freely, I think, and return to a kind of normal fairly quickly. I think in some places where it's almost gone past the tipping point, I think we're going to see some countries really, really labouring under this.
Germany, Austria.
I mean, I saw a clip. I think it was from New Zealand, from Canada. I think this old boy. He must have been in his late 60s, early 70s, I would think, and he was manhandled and arrested for honking in support of the truckers.
Yeah.
I mean,
they banned it in Ottawa, didn't they? They banned honking of horns. So everyone just went on a mad honking session, didn't they? Which is like, it's just like, don't press this red button, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it is.
But
exactly.
I think we have to, the high-vis jackets are in a way misleading, because when you see a whole bunch of coppers in a high-vis jacket, you kind of think they're something to do with keeping the peace, something to do with law and order. If they were all in Nazi uniforms and jackboots, you'd have a completely different, but they're doing the same thing. They're doing exactly the same thing. They're preventing dissent, and they're preventing the people who actually run the show from, when Starmer got hassled in the street, good. He was lucky to get away with his life.
Yeah.
So he's an elected representative. Answer to the people. If you don't answer to the people, get out.
Yeah, and well, again, we could clearly see like how staged that was. I was in London on Monday, and it was, that whole thing was massively staged. Like, again, false flags, which we've seen all the way through. I mean, once people can understand what to look for in these false flag situations, you can't unsee any of them. You just see it straight away, don't you?
No. Yeah. Well, apparently there's a tunnel that goes, I didn't know this, but there's a tunnel that goes from the House of Commons under the road to the portcullis that all the MPs use.
Why didn't he use it?
Why didn't he use it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. So I have no sympathies. Like when the guy from Newsnight got chased through the street, I don't care. No, I actually don't care. It's the people. We pay the taxes. We run the show. We own it all. You guys are there to represent us and do a good job. Do not start telling us what to do, or how to demonstrate or not to demonstrate or where to stand. Do not do that, because that's not your job. Your job is to represent us, make us safe, and make us free. That's it.
The clue's in the title, isn't it? Public servant.
Exactly.
There's the clue.
Yeah, that's the clue. Exactly.
Yeah. No, exactly. And that's exactly the message I've had for our local MP here. And I've booked another appointment with him because I want to discuss about the potential for the human rights reform to be rewritten, which is what's kind of happening under the radar amongst all of this NHS mandates being dropped, and which they're not really. There's a lot of backdoor action that they're trying to get away with, middle management levels and stuff like that.
Exactly.
I personally think we should put in some freedom of information requests for them to disclose their bank accounts, to see what payments they've been receiving, as well as head teachers. Because like head teachers everywhere, for example, are literally like, they need to wear masks again because there's high case rates, but they'll never prove it in anything to parents. As well as letting all these jab buses in, even though they're being served notice liabilities. It's clear and obvious what's going on.
Exactly.
But so for me, over the next 6 months, I think we're going to see a lot of people try and get back to some kind of normal. But my biggest concern is what we know medically and scientifically about these vaccinations, and then now we're really starting to see a lot of priming through the media on people, all to do with this HIV and AIDS and stuff like that, which it hasn't even been spoken about for like 20 odd years.
Exactly right.
And now it's like, you need to go out, and you got Prince Harry even encouraging people to test themselves for HIV and stuff like that. And again, it's ridiculous. And you're seeing 70-odd-year-old married men, heterosexual, like suddenly testing positive for HIV.
It's just insane. I completely agree. There's the messaging and we drive into London quite often, And it stopped only recently, but there were huge billboards, get boosted, get your dose, get month after month. Yeah. It was like living in North Korea. It was extraordinary. And what I've suddenly realized that we both grew up in the countryside, and I used to think the coppers were completely non-political. They were just there to solve crime. I used to think politicians were always on our side, one way or the other. We might have disagreed with them, but we were all basically on the same page. I trusted my local doctor completely. I trusted the NHS completely to be non-political and to be essentially an organisation solely concerned with health and well-being. I don't believe any of that now. Yeah, I just don't believe it. The whole thing is rotten from the core, from the monarchy down. I mean, I have a real problem with the monarchy, but you grew up a monarchist, if you like.
Same, yeah.
Yeah. You've got subjects in Australia, New Zealand and Canada who are being either falsely imprisoned, bullied and harassed and having their rights and freedoms continually undermined, if not taken away completely. Not a word.
Yeah, from the royals.
From the royals, over who are the head of those there's a Union Jack on all their flags. Yeah, we haven't had a single word. So don't talk to me about the platinum celebrations. I'm not interested. Yeah.
It's the same for myself, and obviously all the other veteran community who are like fully awake to what's going on. Like the difficulty in the last year has been obviously how Biden just handed over obviously and the Brits like all the equipment and dossiers, everything that was just locked there in Afghanistan. When you've actually realised that you were there along with mates and along with people that were sadly killed and lost limbs and badly injured for life, all to pretty much protect the poppy fields which are owned by the CIA and which help fund illegal wars. And we often questioned it, like, what the fuck are we doing here, like in the middle of a village in nowhere? And I remember it was on and after the 10th anniversary of like 9/11. And the US Marines are going around these little villages showing laminated photos of like the Twin Towers being hit and just saying like, look, this is why we're still here, trying to justify it to these locals.
I see.
And they're all like, what's that? Like they've never had a TV, internet, phone, radio, anything ever. Really archaic. I have no idea what they're looking at. And it's like, well, how the hell is this protecting people on the streets of UK by being in villages like this? When it's so much more dangerous because there's IEDs being planted in all these doorways for troops and this, that, and the other. And it's all to protect like the poppy fields, and 80% of the world's heroin comes from there, which obviously funds CIA. It's just like mental. And then obviously we know that at the top of this pyramid, along with the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers and everyone else like that, lies the royal family. And when people learn this, it is a big sucker punch to take in if you've been a monarchist and you've served Queen and country and stuff like that, and the Queen's head's on your medals and it's stuff like that, and it is a hard pill to swallow. Like, I'm not going to lie, I've spoke to quite a few vets about it, but it gives me a sense of anger, but also this sense of drive to really get it out there and want to actually help as many people on our soil, to protect.
Exactly. Well, one thing I think that this COVID thing has done is it's pulled back the curtains on a lot of this. I think what we were sort of, in a way, we sort of suspected that it was a bit like this, but we weren't really sure. And I think this COVID-19 has pulled back the curtains, and we can really see much more clearly now the interconnection of all this and how a lot of these people are compromised and are complicit in it one way or the other. The interesting thing about the left, I think, is I watched a few years ago, there was a speech given by Peter Shaw at the Oxford Union about the membership of the EU. And he was on the left of the Labour Party, but he was deeply patriotic and very fired up about having confidence in yourself and having confidence and belief in your country and all that kind of stuff. That's missing. Not only is it missing in the Tories, it's missing in Labour as well now. Very rarely do you get a politician standing up without sounding jingoistic and encouraging people to be brave and encouraging people to be strong and have confidence in themselves. What the opposition seems to do, and the government, is they encourage us to be deferential and to be dependent and to be slavish and to wait for their instruction. And we must not do that. We must not allow them to do that. They are not our teachers. We run the show here. Yeah. The people pay the taxes. There would be no politicians on their health, whatever their wages are, if we weren't paying them. Where's their money coming from? I'll tell you where it's coming from us. If you employed a gardener and all he did was dig up your lawn, you'd sack him. right? That's what it is. These people are paid for by us to do the job properly or clear off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you're exactly right. And I mean, I saw you guys there in London a couple of weeks ago on the Saturday when all the NHS, staff were there and everything. It was
That's a good day, wasn't it?
Yeah.
really powerful message. Where do you see things going with the NHS?
I think I'll let Fred talk in a minute, but my personal feeling is that it's been a busted flush for a long time, and it needs a bit of a rethink. There are some conditions that private medicine will never, ever, ever entertain. Long-term critical care, things like, I don't know, anything like cancer-related, long-term diabetic treatment. Then private medicine is not really interested. They can't make money out of it, but it can make money out of broken legs, pinning back your ears, a nose job, and all that kind of thing. So I think it should be split into two. I think it should be that the National Health Service should be purely about anything that private medicine will not touch, and everything else you pay for directly yourself. That's what I think.
Or through taxes.
Or through tax. Yeah, I can't see. And also, I think everything should be in terms of tax. Everything should be ring fenced.
Yeah.
Everything. So when they put up national insurance, okay, that's fine. Now let's ring fence it so we know that it's going not to Christmas parties at number 10 or the roads down into it. It's actually going where it's meant to go. So ring fence every single tax so that we know, we the people who pay for it know where it's going.
Yeah,
it's not unreasonable, instead of chucking it all into the treasury and letting them buggers dish it out. I'm not interested in that. I don't trust them. So let's ring fence it so we know. I never used to feel like this, but the more I think about it, the more I realise that we pay for the roads and then they charge us to park our cars on it. Right? You can't get your head around it. Yeah. We were talking to an accountant yesterday about property tax. The stamp duty. What
does it actually go on? It's just like it doesn't even go on anything.
No, there's no service provided.
It's two words that mean tax.
Yeah.
Like when you go to Heathrow Airport and a lot of other airports, apparently, you get charged £5 to drop somebody off. I mean, it's the world of insanity that the government is a bit like, they have this, it's almost like an addiction to the money that we have in our pockets. They cannot wait to develop a new way, a new ruse to stick their hands in your pocket and take your money out. And I tax me once and then clear off. I'm not interested. Tax me once and then leave the room.
We've got, I've got a couple of family members who work for the NHS. The biggest problem they have is the management, and they said that she thinks there's some wonderful people on the front line, and also consultants, and right across. Exactly. She said, but the problem is dealing with management on a daily basis. She said it gets in the way of work getting done. They're not really medical people. They quite often come from other areas. And that's her and her partner's biggest complaint. We became doctors because that's what we want to do. We don't want to spend our time talking to admin people. And they had one incident last year, and this manager came down and said that there's no more CPR to be done in A&E. And all the doctors went, what? So if someone comes in with a car crash, we're not meant to do CPR. No, you've got to go and see the hazmat team to get a hazmat suit.
By which time they're dead.
Yes. Unfortunately, all the nurses, all doctors looked at each other and just told the guy to fuck off. What are you talking about?
Well, I know in a similar kind of way, there's a care home or an assisted living home around the corner, and I was talking to the lady that runs it. And a few months ago, one of the residents of the home, they're all very elderly, she walked into the car park, tripped and fell over. So the lady who runs the place ran out, helped her up, and pulled her back in. She was then reprimanded by her superiors because she should have left her there. Because of COVID, she should have left her there and phoned an ambulance. I mean, come on, is this where we've got to really?
Oh God,
it's extraordinary, And, so I think an old lady went a bit dizzy in Marks and Spencer's where I live at the beginning of all this, and I could see she wanted a chair to sit on. So I helped her up and gave her a chair, but nobody else helped her. Nobody go near her. It's just this parrot, that's what it's encouraged us to be incredibly selfish, and to become slightly less human in a way. I think. I reject it completely. I would rather get COVID and help somebody than leave them on the floor. I really would. Yeah.
Well, yeah, of course. But I mean, even that in itself, you know, regardless of what people's thoughts are on the NHS, the whole thing around early treatment has been completely whitewashed. You know, I've been fortunate to have like Dr. Peter McCulloch on the show and stuff like that, who like is a massive advocate for early treatment, has treated hundreds and hundreds of patients early.
Yeah.
Same with, you know, Dr. Sam White here in the UK.
Yeah.
He always was very quick to point out early treatment and then actually following up with patients rather than just saying, oh, so you've diagnosed yourself with a test that doesn't diagnose you with anything. Okay, that's fine. So you stay at home and isolate now. Hopefully nothing will happen to you in 10 to 14 days.
Yeah.
Like that's what's basically been the case for people. There's no patient-physician relationship. It's like completely gone. And then when you do try and get one, you've just been fobbed off. And that's why we've got this massive backlog. So like my son, for example, he needs a rhinoplasty done, a septal rhinoplasty done in his nose.
Right.
He broke it when he was younger, and just over the years where he's grown, it's like not formed properly. So it's given him sort of like breathing problems.
Okay.
It's really enjoyable sitting next to him while he's eating, I can tell you.
Rounds out the TV.
Yeah. Sit next to him eating a pack of Doritos is a man test. But he's been told like he's had all the scans and everything he needs. It's all there. But he's been told he's got to wait at least a year to get the op. It's mad.
I know.
So, I mean, I think things can only get better at this stage. I think within the NHS, right? Because it's just
lose our fear. That's what it is. I mean, very, very quickly. When our mother was in hospital, we took some flowers in to see her, and I asked for a pair of scissors to cut the cellophane away. So she said, well, they're all in the store cupboard. So I went and got the scissors, and the brand new, took them out of a packet, brand new, cut the cellophane away. And then I said to the nurse, well, where do I take the scissors back? Give them back. She said, oh, no, they're disposable, throw them away. So I said, sorry? She said, no, they're disposable, throw them away.
They were $4.99, she said.
Yeah, $4.99. So you imagine all the PPE, all the gloves, all these little paper thermometers, all that stuff that just gets used just the once and it gets thrown away. Waste in the NHS. We are so not facing.
Well, we know who's got the contracts for them, don't we? Because the markup on those scissors, for example, would be ridiculous.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
Mental. Before we wrap up, guys, I wanted to ask you guys. Just going to do a little bit of a game. I thought we'd finish on a bit of a fun game in that case. So, you remember the old TV series, Celebrity Deathmatch? It was on MTV.
No.
So it was all. Do you remember? I used to search it on YouTube. Right. So it was like they used to get cartoon celebrities, and then they were basically fighting this ring to the death. Right.
I don't remember that.
No.
Yeah, it was on MTV for ages. I used to watch it as a teenager all the time. If you search on YouTube, you'll probably find it.
Right.
So this is just for fun, right? So I'm gonna put two sets of people in the ring. So you guys have got to tell me who would win.
Okay.
All right. Let's see if both of you answer the same thing. Okay. So we've got a celebrity death match between the Beatles and the Backstreet Boys. Who wins?
Beatles.
Backstreet Boys.
No. George Harrison was a real tough street fighter. No, Backstreet Boys they'd be running to the dressing room after the end of the first round.
I don't know about that.
Right. Anyway,
this is going out globally, guys. By the way. Right? So if you get Brian and all that, sending you shitty emails. Okay, next one. Elvis.
Yeah.
Mick Jagger.
Elvis.
Yeah.
He was a martial arts guy.
He's physically bigger.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. Elvis.
Martial arts, all that. Yeah.
Cool. I'll send him a WhatsApp. Let him know.
Thank you.
You might have a job reaching him.
Spice Girls.
Oh, yeah.
Spice Girls. Yeah.
Or Girls Aloud.
Hang on, let's have a quick think.
Are there any lesbians in those bands? Because they can kick like a mother.
They can. Spice Girls or Girls Aloud?
Yeah.
Let me have a think who's in Spice Girls.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Scary Spice and Jerry Halliwell, whatever her name was. I think that might be a bit feisty.
Yes, you might be right.
Yeah.
It's scary. It's
Yeah.
Yeah, I reckon Mel C as well, Sporty Spice. I reckon she's got a roundhouse kick on her as well.
Yeah.
yeah.
I think Tori Beckham could bore them to death. So.
Yes, or style them out of existence.
Okay, next one. Cliff Richard.
Oh, Lord.
Or Boy George.
Handbags at dawn, eh?
Cliff Richard or Boy George? I think Cliff is more sporty.
Yes, I think. Although Boy George is a big guy, isn't he? He's a big guy.
Yeah, he is. But I think
much younger.
Yeah, but I think speed and like tennis and stuff.
Yeah.
I think he might have the edge.
Oh, Cliffy, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
Or Prince.
Prince.
Prince, probably.
Prince,
yeah,
I
think so. Much smaller guy, I think, but I think he would have the edge.
I think he's probably a bit. I would think he's probably, pretty handy.
Yeah, what was?
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, that would dance out of trouble.
Yes, he would.
He'd draw the back of the moonwalk.
Yeah. Okay, last one then. This is the penultimate one. Okay, so the final.
Yeah.
Right. Right Said Fred.
Yeah.
Or Oasis.
Right Said Fred.
Didn't even hesitate.
I could do that with one drink in my hand and not spill it.
I'm not going to say a word.
Definitely Right Said Fred.
Okay, well, we have to, don't we, really?
Yeah.
We have
to. Yeah. All right. So you heard it here, Gallagher's. Right. Right Said Fred would wallop you in a celebrity death match.
No, I'd kiss him to death.
Yeah. He would, yeah.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Awesome, guys. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show and sharing about your journey over the last couple of years and what you guys are up to is absolutely fantastic. I know there's a lot of people who watch the show are massive fans of you guys. They speak very highly of you, and just the fact you get out there on the ground. You go to these rallies and stuff like that, and mix with people, want to speak to people face to face is absolutely superb. So you can't ask for more than that from people out there. I hope if there is any other musicians or people in other industries that are a bit concerned about sort of stepping out away from their brand and that, I'm sure you could take great solace in what you guys are doing.
Okay.
And I'm sure that if they want to talk about it, they can reach out to you guys.
Yep.
Where's the best for people to sort of see what you guys are doing and up to? Is it on social?
Twitter. We're at the Freds on Twitter, and also Getter at the Freds. Yeah. And there's Facebook. We've got two, Right Said Fred and me, Fred Fairbrass. There's rightsaidfred.com. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Awesome stuff, guys. Well done. No, but please keep doing what you're doing. It's absolutely fantastic. And
Cheers,
I think I'll speak on behalf of everybody who watches the show that you guys are doing amazing things and got a good pair of heads on your shoulders. Like, it's great.
Hopefully.
Awesome, guys.
Yeah.
Well, guys and girls, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe to the AJ Roberts across Facebook, Twitter, Rumble, BitChute, and the new YouTube channel, Third Time Lucky. And obviously we've got my Telegram channel at AJ Roberts Show. But please share this episode if you've enjoyed it with some friends and family. And I'll see you very soon again on the AJ Roberts Show. Take care.